Welcome to my Moon Rune Divination Practice. My name is Kyle Jason Leitzke. I'm a holistic life coach. I'm specially trained in Ayurveda, but I also have a real passion in spirituality. And on one of my past videos, oddly enough, one of my minimal bag travel videos, I mentioned my runes in something as I packed, and somebody in the comments said they wanted to learn more about this. So here we are. I also live full-time nomadically out of my van, and currently I am filming from the Mount Shasta area and at a beautiful lake here camping with a friend, and it's the new moon tonight, so this is a good time where I've completed a cycle. I'm going to review, reflect, cleanse the runes that I've used this moon cycle, replenish them, and begin a new cycle with my new moon pull, and then journal on that. I'm not going to go into all the definitions of the different runes, but I'm going to talk more about my practice, what it is, how I use them, how I've kind of gotten to this point, and why I still do it, and a few other details about that. So what are runes? Runes, how I understand it, are a sacred alphabet. One interpretation I've heard is that it's like a whisper or a holy secret. It's an alphabet that I understand comes from ancestral Germany and Scandinavia. And what is a divination practice? So divination comes from the philosophy that we are spirits in our physical reality. So we've chosen to be here. So we are creators of our reality. We've chosen to be here in this life. So we have this tapping into our greater self. Some call it God, universe, energy, lots of different names, but there's this theory there that we are creators, can be creators of our reality, or we are creators and we attract what we do. So to bring intention through a practice like runes or tarot is something in terms of tapping into that wisdom and being intentional about how we move forward in life. When we pull cards, when we pull runes, the idea that I understand is our resonance of what's inside of us, our energy, is attracting these archetypes, these alphabets, these wisdoms in these symbols. So how do we use runes, or do I use runes as a divination practice? It's kind of like a game of between the unknowing, seeking answers, and the knowing, right? Our mind, our physical reality might have this unknowingness, this uncertainty, but we're connected to our spirit, our God, our source that is all knowing, has all knowing, and we're trying to connect between that. These runes, or some people use tarot, or whatever kind of divination or oracle tool you use, they're tools. I think it's important to recognize that the knowledge is not in them. It's not outside of us. The wisdom is within inside of us. So these are tools that are mirrors that help us play with that and be in relation to that. The more personal I think we can make this practice, the more attuned you'll be, and the more frequent and disciplined that you do it and consistently you do it, the stronger that muscle will be of your intuition and your wisdom. So that's why I like to do it with the moon cycle. I use the Aquariun runes book that I have, and I'll talk about here a little bit more. But it breaks down the moon cycle, which is typically 29 and a half days, into 8 different phases. And each phase has a different energy generally along with it. I personally haven't gotten too deep into the astrology and where the moon is throughout the year. I follow astrology slightly, and I have resources that come into me, and I absorb what I get, but I use general themes around the different cycles. So it starts with the new moon, we go into the crescent, first quarter. The book I use considers after that, called the gibbous phase, still building up to the then full moon. After the full moon, we have the disseminating phase, the third or last quarter, the balsamic, and then it begins again at the new moon. So the 8 different phases. If that was too much, you could really break it down into 4 within the new moon, first quarter moon, full moon, and third quarter, all the way to and begin again with the new moon. Or some people even use the just new moon and full moon, kind of the gaining, the waxing, and the disseminating or waning energies within that. But I've stuck to the 8 phases that I use in the Aquariun Runes book as part of my practice. Why I got connected to runes is I started 2 years ago, almost exactly, and I was really wanting to have a stronger spiritual practice. As I was learning more about spirituality and being more in tune, I wanted to find something that resonated with me. I also wanted to find something that had some ties to some of my biological ancestry. I have a lot of German ancestry, and I had been searching for a little bit in terms of some spiritual practices from my ancestry. What did ancestors way back when do before colonization, before Christianity? I wanted to know some spiritual practices that I could tune into in terms of that. I had been learning some Native American spiritual practices and different Eastern spiritual practices, which have been really helpful and I still use, but I wanted to have a spiritual practice that was tied to my biological ancestry. People around me were using tarot cards, but I didn't feel really resonant with that. I was waiting to see if there would be a deck that called to me, but I found about runes, then I kind of stayed open to trying to find that. Comes to be, I have a really close friend of mine who owns a new age type store called Shotzi's Hidden Treasures in Eureka, California. I'll put the link in the description because I believe they have online retail that you can get, and maybe they'll have this book and stuff still. But a good friend of mine, and I was in his store one day just browsing and saw that he had some rune sets. He also was born and from Germany. So he taught me a little bit about it. I'd done some research and I felt called. So I ended up purchasing a rune set from him, and that made it special to me because, like, hey, I'm getting runes. It's part of my biological ancestry. I'm buying it from my friend who's my soul brother. And then he also had this book, The Aquariun Runes, which his past partner, his ex-wife, Zira Starchild, wrote and he published. So it kind of all aligned for me of, like, I was open and interested in it. I was more interested in runes. He had some. He could tell me about it, gave me some advice, and there was a book to interpret it that had connection to him too. So that all really aligned for me. Once I got the rune set, one of the things my friend told me is to really cleanse them and to make them my own. So that really started my path of being a really intentional practice and creating ritual and ceremony around it. So I lived in Arcata, California at the time, near the Pacific Ocean, some rivers as well, but I felt called to go to the ocean. So shortly after I got these, how I began my relationship with these runes was to take them to the ocean, each one out individual in the surf, and rinse them with the ocean water and having an intention, saying prayers of kind of cleansing them, welcoming them. So I cleansed, rinsed each rune with the ocean water. I smudged them, and I came up with some kind of prayer of welcoming them and thanking them for the wisdom that they were going to help me live out. So that's kind of the little ritual I created right when I first got them, to bring them into my life and really set a container and ritual and ceremony around it. In the Aquariun Runes book, Zira has layouts for lots of different questions you can ask. There's some brief description of how to use the runes, what divination is, kind of where I've got some of my knowledge that I've shared with you, and then has descriptions for each rune in here. You can see I've written notes. I used Zira's book, but I've also found a couple resources, one in particular online, runesecrets.com. That's been one of my favorites to look up the individual energy and archetypes and notes on runes to help me further connect and understand and pull some meaning out of it. I've been doing my practice for just about 2 years now, and it's evolved, but I feel like really in the last 6 to 12 months, it's gotten even tighter. You can see in my spread here, I have now some stones that I've collected along my travels that I kind of put in the directions. So each of these stones kind of represent a certain energy within the direction for me. Sometimes I play around, but I've used this configuration for the last 4 or 5 moon cycles, 4 or 5 months. And it goes counterclockwise from new moon all the way to balsamic, full moon. So new moon I put in the north position from where I set it up, and full moon in the south. Because I live nomadically, I juggle everything around when I drive, so I can't keep this kind of altar out. I used to do that when I lived in a home and did this practice, but now I have like a little medicine pouch, and then I have my rune pouch. So as I pull runes out of this pouch and place them in their spot and do my journaling in each cycle, this pouch holds the runes, holds the power stones, and they stay in here separate during the cycle. I don't mix it in. Once I pull it, I keep it out for the cycle, and then at the end of the cycle, I cleanse it, thank it, put it back, and start fresh. So I use this really in the moon cycle theme. So you could do just individual pulls like a tarot card. You could put it back and see if it comes out again multiple times in the cycle. Really just, that's like I said earlier, make it your own, see what feels right, and go with that. I like pulling every 3 or 4 days with the 8 different cycles. Keeps the energy going, keeps it fresh, but it's not every single day, so it's manageable for me. If I am a little late, a day or two, that's happened before, I just catch back up. It's also been frequent enough where I keep that energy. I've heard some people who will pull the whole spread for the month. And I tried that early on, but I didn't feel connected. I lost the energy. I lost the connection to it. So I've stuck with pulling one rune, keeping it out, and doing it every 3 or 4 days in that kind of 8-phase cycle. So part of my ritual is I have these mala beads that my sister gave to me. So this is also kind of a unique thing that makes it special for me. I like to put on my wrist. So one tip too that my friend gave me is when I pull with my left hand, the receiving hand. It's not the kind of willing or kind of analytical right hand, really a receiving hand. So I like to put that on my left wrist. I will burn some Palo Santo or sage, get into the energy. I have a song that I've been using. I'll put on repeat. The title's named Om Guru. I'll put the Spotify link in the comments. Then I'll presence myself with the phase. What's the energy that's coming with? And I used to ask questions early on, but the last probably 15 months, I started switching to affirmations. So around the energy that's coming up. So if it's full moon, what I'm really aware of, like full moon is full awareness of the theme. So if I'm fully aware, I'll kind of come up with an affirmative sentence that has a fill in the blank somewhere. And so I'll come up with that affirmation with a fill in the blank. And then I'm going to meditate on that. And then I'm going to receive and pull the rune with my left hand when I feel ready. And then I'm going to interpret that, research kind of some of the meanings, and journal about that and tap into what is that word, what is that phrase that I think completes that affirmation. Sometimes I'll rewrite it. Again, it's about you and what comes, but typically I find some kind of word that flows with that. And I've liked using that affirmation aspect of it to be more intentional instead of being kind of an asking question. So I feel like it brings more of my knowingness out. So once I pull that out, I kind of pull out my affirmation. I'll then journal some notes. So this is a journal I have. I kind of make some specific pages just for that moon cycle. And I give myself just a limited amount of space in terms of writing my affirmation, what my rune is, and then some general notes, a broad range of what the rune represents. And then maybe sometimes I write multiple affirmations or quotes that come from either the book or the runesecrets.com information. So I just journal on it. And as a life coach, I'm on Instagram, so it's been one of my content shares too. I don't focus on the rune information, but I take the affirmation and the moon cycle and I put that into a reel or an image and I share that for my followers. So if you're interested in seeing those things, you can follow me. My link for Instagram is down below. It's my name, Kyle Jason Leitzke. But that's been a neat piece of content that I enjoy. And I only do 4 cycles of the moon in that. So full, first quarter, full, and third quarter. I'm doing the 8 phase for myself, but in my content, I'm doing the 4 phase. So how this has helped me and why I keep doing it. Really coming back to like the reason I talked about earlier is really a practice of tuning into my intuition, my own wisdom, and creating my reality. That's where I really like the affirmations. So it's really helped practice exercising that muscle of tuning into my God, my higher self, my spirit, my gut, intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's just helped me strengthen that. And I feel so much more connected to that 2 years in practice right now than I was beforehand. And it's something I enjoy doing. I look forward to. I found that rhythm. I've created ritual here. This wasn't how it looked at the beginning. I just started, and every so once in a while I'd reflect and be like, oh, I want to try this. So it's a trial and error of seeing what worked for me. And I keep doing it because it really helps with my intuition, like I said, and living purposefully, living on purpose. I'm a holistic life coach. I brand myself as an Ayurvedic life purpose coach. So I have my Vedic wisdom from India and the Eastern wisdom, and I have purpose that I've helped people with. And this is a spiritual practice that I use. My clients don't have to do this, but it's something that's helped me really tune in. And I do encourage my clients to have a spiritual practice. So I would love to help you get into it. That's why I'm sharing this video and how it helps me. But by any means, find what works for you. If runes aren't your thing, but the moon aspect is really interesting, then find something with the moon cycles. I encourage that because having some kind of divination practice in cycle with the moon and the natural rhythms of that throughout the month and throughout the year have really helped me tune into not just my spiritual wisdom, but just my physical reality of what's going on in my body, what's going on around me in my life. And as a coach, like I even use now kind of the last quarter to the new moon, it's really disseminating really slower, softer energy. So I really minimize the work I do then. And I minimize the meetings I have. I really allow myself to really slow down, integrate, process, reflect, and noticing at the new moon, I have this new clarity, new energy, and I focus a lot on my building and energizing and a lot of my work stuff in that new moon to the last quarter. So it's helped me not just in my spiritual life, but in my physical reality, my work life, my personal life, my relationship life, in knowing what's going on. So big fan of it. Thank you for asking about it. I hope this gives some more information. If you have more questions, feel free to let me know. I'm not an expert in every rune. I still use my book, the online resources to tap into it, but the ones that have shown up for me multiple times, I do have kind of strong relationships. And then it's kind of also fun when one pulls out, ooh, I haven't seen this one in a long time. So learning the different names of the runes and their different interpretations has been a fun practice for me as well of connecting. So like I said, I'll put the link to Shotzi's Hidden Treasures, where I got this rune set and the Aquariun Runes book. See if you can connect with that. The Rune Secrets website is down below. My Instagram is down below if you'd like to see the moon content I share there, along with my other Ayurvedic and life purpose coaching content. If you'd like to schedule a coaching meeting, a free coaching call, I do first 30-minute free coaching calls about holistic life purpose, and would love to chat with you more about that. Mention that you saw this, or if you're interested, would love to talk about how you can integrate that and help you live purposefully and with intention. And if this video is helpful, hit that like button, subscribe if you would like to see more of my content, put a comment if you have questions or if you want to see something more in depth. So I appreciate you being here and I enjoy sharing what helps me and helping you really connect with your intuition, build your courage, live purposefully, be fulfilled. So I hope my explanation about my rune divination practice with the moon cycles has been helpful for you. And namaste.